Jethro was Moses' father-in-law. He was a priest in Midian. That's a good place to start. He wasn't an Israelite. He was from a different tribe, a different people, but he played a really big part in Moses' life. A quiet part maybe, but a very important one. He gave Moses some of the best advice he ever got. Advice that saved Moses from burning out. Advice that helped a whole nation get organized. It all started when Moses had to run away. He had killed an Egyptian. He saw an Egyptian hurting a Hebrew, and he stepped in. He acted fast, maybe without thinking it all through. He killed the Egyptian, and then he buried him in the sand. But someone saw it, and soon Pharaoh knew. Moses' life was in danger, so he fled. He left everything he knew. The royal palace, the Egyptian life. He ran far away into the desert. He ended up in a land called Midian. Imagine that. Moses, raised in luxury, now alone in a desert land. He was a stranger. He had nothing. But he was a good man, and that's where Jethro comes in. Moses sat down by a well. It was a common meeting place. People came to water their flocks. While he was there, 7 daughters of Jethro came to water their father's sheep. But some other shepherds showed up. They were rough. They tried to push Jethro's daughters away. They wanted to water their own flocks first. That wasn't fair. Moses saw what was happening. He didn't just sit there. He stood up for the women. He drove the other shepherds away. He helped the daughters water their sheep. It was a simple act of kindness. A brave act, too, for a stranger alone in a new land. The daughters went home to their father, Jethro. Jethro asked them, "How is it that you have come home so early today?" They told him about the Egyptian. They called Moses an Egyptian because of how he looked or dressed. They said, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even watered our flock for us." Jethro was a good man. He was hospitable. He knew what was right. He said, "And where is he? Why did you leave the man there? Invite him to come and eat with us." So they went back and brought Moses to Jethro's home. This was a turning point for Moses. He was a fugitive, but Jethro took him in. He offered him food, shelter, and a place to belong. And Moses found favor in Jethro's eyes. Jethro gave Moses his daughter, Zipporah, to be his wife. And so Moses, the prince of Egypt, became a shepherd in Midian. He lived with Jethro's family. For the next 40 years, Moses worked for Jethro. He cared for Jethro's sheep. He lived a quiet life, a very different life from the one he had before. No palaces. No fancy clothes. Just the desert, the sheep, and his new family. This was a long time. 40 years is a lifetime for many people, but it was a time of preparation for Moses. He learned patience. He learned to lead sheep, which is not so different from leading people. He learned the ways of the desert. He learned humility. Jethro was a priest, a man of faith. We don't know exactly what he taught Moses during these years, but living under his roof, being part of his family, surely had an influence. Jethro was a calm, steady presence. He was a man of the land, a man of simple wisdom. He gave Moses stability when Moses had none. He gave Moses a family when Moses had lost his connection to his own. One day, while Moses was leading Jethro's flock to the far side of the desert, he came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And that's where he saw the burning bush, a bush that was on fire but not burning up. And God spoke to him from the bush. God told Moses he had a big job for him. He wanted Moses to go back to Egypt and lead the Israelites out of slavery. This was a huge thing. Moses had been a shepherd for 40 years. He was not a leader of men anymore. He was humble, maybe even a little scared, but God had chosen him. Moses had to tell Jethro. He went back to his father-in-law and said, "Please let me go back to my own people in Egypt. I want to see if they are still alive." He didn't tell Jethro about the burning bush or God's call directly. Maybe he wasn't ready to share it all. Or maybe he just wanted to be respectful. Jethro's response was simple. "Go in peace," he said. No argument, no trying to hold Moses back, no questions about why after all these years. He trusted Moses. He let Moses go. This shows Jethro's character. He was supportive. He was not selfish. He understood that sometimes people need to follow a path even if it takes them away. He released Moses with a blessing. So Moses took his wife and his sons and began the journey back to Egypt. What happened next is a long story. The plagues, the showdown with Pharaoh, the Red Sea. God did amazing things through Moses, and Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt. They wandered in the desert. After the Israelites had crossed the Red Sea and God had defeated the Egyptians, news spread. It spread far and wide. Jethro heard about it. He heard all that God had done for Moses and for his people Israel. He heard about how God had brought Israel out of Egypt. Jethro was still family. He knew Zipporah, Moses' wife, and he knew Moses' two sons, Gershom and Eleazar. Moses had sent them back to Jethro for safekeeping at some point during the dramatic events in Egypt. It was probably safer for them to be with Jethro during the conflict with Pharaoh. So Jethro, being the good man he was, decided to bring Moses' family to him. He took Zipporah and the two boys, and he traveled to meet Moses in the wilderness. Moses was camped at the mountain of God, the very same Horeb where he had seen the burning bush. Moses was busy. He was leading a huge crowd of people, millions maybe. He was trying to organize them to guide them. It was a tough job. But when he heard that Jethro was coming, he went out to meet him. This was a big family reunion. Moses went out, he bowed down, and he kissed Jethro. It shows the deep respect and affection he had for his father-in-law. They asked each other how they were doing. They talked. Then Moses brought Jethro into his tent, and Moses told Jethro everything. He recounted all that the Lord had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake. He told him about all the hardships they had faced on the journey and how the Lord had rescued them from it all. Imagine Jethro listening to this. His son-in-law, who had been a humble shepherd, was now telling stories of miracles, of God's mighty power. It must have been amazing to hear. Jethro rejoiced. He was glad for all the good things the Lord had done for Israel. He was glad the Lord had rescued them from the hand of the Egyptians. Jethro, a Midianite priest, then said something powerful. "Blessed be the Lord, who rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians and from the hand of Pharaoh, and who rescued the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all other gods, for he did this when the Egyptians acted arrogantly against Israel." This was a big statement from Jethro. He wasn't an Israelite. He didn't grow up with the stories of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But seeing God's work, hearing Moses' stories, changed him. He recognized the power of the Israelite God. He saw that this God was truly above all others. And then Jethro did something else. He offered sacrifices and burnt offerings to God. Aaron, Moses' brother, came. And all the elders of Israel came. They all sat down to eat with Moses' father-in-law before God. This was a communal meal, a sacred gathering. It showed that Jethro was not just a wise relative, he was a man who honored God, the God of Israel. He became part of their worship. The next day, Jethro watched Moses at work. Moses sat as judge for the people. People stood around him from morning until evening. They came with all their problems, all their disputes. Moses was the only one. The one person who listened, who decided, who gave counsel. It was a huge burden. Jethro saw this. He didn't jump in immediately. He observed. He watched how Moses was handling things. And he saw a problem. A big problem. He asked Moses, "What is this thing that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit alone and all the people stand around you from morning until evening?" It was a direct question, a simple, honest question, not accusatory, but observant. As Moses explained, he said, "Because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, they come to me, and I decide between one person and another, and I inform them of God's decrees and instructions." Moses felt responsible for everything. He was the direct link to God. He had to resolve every argument, answer every question about the law. He was doing it all himself. It was too much. And here comes Jethro's great advice. This is what he's most remembered for. He looked at Moses, his son-in-law, a man leading millions, and he said, "What you are doing is not good. Straight to the point. No beating around the bush. Not good." And he explained why. "You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone." He saw the future. He saw Moses getting exhausted, burning out. He saw the people getting tired too, waiting all day for justice. It was an unsustainable system. Then he offered a solution, practical, clear, and wise. "Listen now to me, and I will give you some advice, and may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to him. Teach them the decrees and instructions, and show them the way to live and the duties they are to perform. But select from all the people able men, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times. They should bring every difficult case to you, but all the simple cases they can decide themselves. That will make your load lighter, because they will share the burden with you. If you do this and God so commands, you will be able to stand the strain, and all these people will go home satisfied." This was brilliant. It was about delegation. It was about building a system. First, Jethro confirmed Moses' primary role. Moses was the main connection to God. He was the one who went to God with the big issues. He was the one who taught God's laws. That part stayed with Moses. No one else could do that. But for the day-to-day problems, for the smaller disputes, Moses didn't need to be the only one. He needed help. He needed to share the load. Jethro gave clear criteria for the people Moses should choose. They had to be able men. Not just anyone. They needed to be competent. They had to be men who fear God. This was crucial. They had to have moral character, a deep respect for God's law. They had to be trustworthy men, people who could be relied on, and they had to hate dishonest gain. They couldn't be corrupt. They wouldn't take bribes. These were high standards. These chosen men would be organized into a hierarchy of officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. This created a structure, a chain of command. It meant people knew where to go, and the cases would be sorted. Simple cases would be handled by these new judges. Only the truly difficult, complex cases would come to Moses. This would lighten Moses' burden immensely. It would also mean faster justice for the people. Everyone would benefit. Jethro even added a caveat: if you do this, and God so commands. He acknowledged that ultimately God's will was supreme. He was offering advice, not demanding a change. He knew that Moses still needed to check with God. Moses listened, and he didn't just listen, he acted. He did the voice of his father-in-law and did everything he said. This shows Moses' humility. He was the great leader, the one who spoke to God face to face. But he was still willing to take advice from his father-in-law, an outsider. He knew good advice when he heard it. Moses chose capable men from all Israel. He appointed them as heads over the people, officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. They served as judges for the people at all times. They brought the difficult cases to Moses, but they decided all the simple cases themselves. This change was huge. It transformed the way the Israelite camp operated. It brought order to chaos. It gave Moses the space he needed to focus on his unique role, receiving God's laws, praying for the people, leading them in big decisions. And it empowered others. It gave responsibility to many, building leadership skills throughout the nation. It also gave the people quicker access to justice. They didn't have to wait all day for Moses alone. After Jethro gave this wonderful advice, and after Moses put it into practice, Jethro prepared to leave. He didn't stay to oversee things. He didn't try to take credit. He had given his wisdom, seen it accepted, and now it was time for him to go. Then Moses sent his father-in-law on his way, and Jethro returned to his own country. This is another mark of Jethro's character. He was not clingy. He was not power-hungry. He didn't try to insert himself permanently into the Israelite leadership. He offered his help, and then he gracefully exited. He returned to his own life, his own people. He was a temporary but vital consultant, a wise elder who stepped in when needed and then stepped back out. So what can we learn from Jethro? A lot, actually. First, the value of outside perspective. Jethro wasn't an Israelite. He wasn't involved in the daily grind. He could see things Moses couldn't see, precisely because he wasn't caught up in it all. Sometimes, the best advice comes from someone not directly in the thick of things. Someone with a fresh set of eyes. Second, observation before action. Jethro didn't just walk in and start telling Moses what to do. He watched. He observed the situation. He understood the problem before offering a solution. This is a mark of true wisdom. Third, speaking truth even to power. Jethro wasn't afraid to tell Moses, the great leader, what you are doing is not good. He did it respectfully but clearly. He cared enough to be honest. Good leaders need people around them who are brave enough to tell them the truth, not just what they want to hear. Fourth, the importance of delegation. This is Jethro's most famous lesson. No one can do everything alone. Leaders must learn to entrust tasks to others. They must build teams. They must empower people. If you try to do it all, you will burn out, and your people will suffer. It's a timeless principle, true for any organization, any family, any group. Fifth, choosing the right people. Jethro didn't just say, get help. He gave specific qualities to look for: able, God-fearing, trustworthy, honest. The people you delegate to matter. Their character is as important as their competence. Sixth, humility in leadership. Moses showed incredible humility by accepting Jethro's advice. He wasn't too proud to learn, even from his father-in-law. A true leader knows they don't have all the answers and is open to wisdom from unexpected sources. Seventh, the ability to step back. Jethro gave his advice and then left. He didn't try to take control or manipulate the situation. He empowered Moses and then let him lead. This is a sign of unselfish wisdom. He cared about the outcome, not about his own position. Jethro shows us that sometimes the greatest contributions come from those in supporting roles. He wasn't the prophet. He wasn't the one who stood before Pharaoh. He wasn't the one who parted the sea. But without his quiet wisdom, Moses might have collapsed under the weight of his responsibilities. The Israelite nation might have floundered in disorganization. He was a man of hospitality, kindness, and deep spiritual insight. He recognized God's power. He cared for his family. He offered practical, life-changing advice. He was a true mentor, even though their relationship started with Moses needing a place to stay. Jethro's story is a reminder that wisdom can come from anyone, anywhere. It's a call for leaders to listen, to observe, and to be open to good counsel. And it's a testament to the fact that even seemingly small, supportive acts can have an immense, lasting impact on the lives of individuals and on the course of history. He was a quiet hero, Moses' father-in-law, who truly helped, and his simple, direct advice still rings true today.